High Admiral Senra of the Kilarian Empire stood at the viewport of her flagship, the Crystal Dominion, her iridescent scales reflecting the starlight as she studied the approaching human vessels with growing disdain. The ships looked like they had been cobbled together from different civilizations' scrapyards. No two vessels shared the same design philosophy, and some appeared to violate basic principles of space engineering that had been established millennia ago. High Admiral, her first officer, Commander Vel, approached with a data tablet. "Our long-range scans of the human fleet are complete. I believe you'll find the results amusing." Senra's facial ridges rippled with contempt as she reviewed the scans. The humans had sent 12 ships to meet the Kilarian Empire's diplomatic delegation. Each vessel was an affront to the Empire's aesthetic and engineering sensibilities, where Kilarian ships were geometric perfection, rendered in crystalline alloys. These human vessels seemed to embrace chaos. "Look at this one." She gestured to a particular scan, her voice dripping with derision. "They've attached what appears to be a civilian mining laser array to a military-grade hull. And this one, the engine configuration completely ignores the laws of efficient propulsion that every spacefaring race has followed since the dawn of interstellar travel." Commander Vel's scales shifted to a shade of diplomatic caution. "Perhaps we should not be too quick to judge, High Admiral. The humans have survived 3 first-contact wars in the past decade alone." "Survived, yes, but against whom? The Jorax? The Centauri? Primitive species fumbling their way through space." Senra's primary eyes narrowed while her secondary set continued monitoring the tactical displays. "We are the Kilarian Empire. Our fleets have brought order to 1,000 systems. Our engineering principles have stood unchallenged for 10,000 years. The communications officer interrupted their discussion. "High Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship, if we can call it that. It appears to be the vessel with the asymmetrical hull configuration." "Put it through," Senra ordered, already composing her expression into one of polite superiority. "Let us see how these primitives conduct diplomacy." The holographic display materialized, showing a human female in what appeared to be a captain's uniform, though it lacked the ceremonial ornaments that any civilized species would consider mandatory for such an occasion. High Admiral Senra, the human, greeted her with a warm smile that seemed genuine despite the gravity of the situation. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Federation. Welcome to the Sol Sector. We're honored to be your diplomatic escort." Senra's scales rippled with barely contained amusement. "Captain Chen, your greeting is noted. However, I must express concern about the condition of your vessels. If the Earth Federation requires engineering assistance, the Kilarian Empire would be willing to provide basic technical advisors as part of any potential diplomatic arrangement." The human smile didn't waver, but something flickered in her eyes. "That's very kind of you, High Admiral. Though I should mention that each ship in our escort fleet represents a different Earth nation's contribution to our Space Force. We find that diversity in design philosophy leads to interesting advantages." "Interesting is one word for it," Senra replied. "Though chaotic and inefficient might be more accurate. Your vessels appear to violate several fundamental principles of space combat doctrine." "Do they?" Captain Chen's expression remained pleasant, but there was an edge to her voice now. "I suppose that depends on whose doctrine you're following. We humans have found that sometimes the most efficient solution isn't always the most effective one." Commander Vel shifted uncomfortably beside Senra. Something about the human's confidence was troubling. It wasn't the usual bravado of primitive species trying to mask their technological inadequacy. This felt different. "You'll forgive me, Captain," Senra continued, "but our scans indicate that some of your vessels are using adapted mining equipment as weapon systems. Surely you don't expect such jury-rigged solutions to be taken seriously by a proper military force. Every tool is a weapon if you hold it right, High Admiral," Chen replied, her smile now carrying a hint of predator. "But we can discuss engineering philosophy another time. For now, shall we proceed with the diplomatic protocols?" We've prepared a rather special demonstration of Earth's capabilities that I believe you'll find enlightening. Senra's scales shifted to a pattern indicating suspicious amusement. Very well, Captain. Though I must insist that your vessels maintain a standard formation during the approach to Earth. We wouldn't want any accidents due to your fleet's unusual configurations. Of course, High Admiral. We'll maintain whatever formation makes you most comfortable. There was something in the human's tone that made Senra's secondary eyes focus more intently on the tactical displays. Though I should warn you, comfort isn't always an advantage in space. As the communication ended, Commander Vell approached his superior carefully. High Admiral, there are reports from our Cultural Analysis Division about human military history that you may want to review. They have an unusual tendency to. Enough, Senra cut him off. I've seen all I need to see. These humans parade their flaws as if they were achievements. They embrace chaos where there should be order. Such a species cannot hope to stand as equals with the Kilarian Empire. She turned to her tactical officer. Maintain weapons in standby mode, but ensure all systems are ready for full combat operations. I doubt we'll need them. The humans clearly lack the technological sophistication to pose any real threat. But the Empire does not survive for 10,000 years by being careless. As the Crystal Dominion and its escort fleet moved into formation alongside the human vessels, Senra couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something obvious. The human ships were clearly inferior by every measurable standard, yet they carried themselves with the confidence of a species that had never learned to fear superior force. High Admiral, her sensor officer called out, I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures from the human vessels. They don't match any known weapons or propulsion systems in our database. Of course they don't, Senra replied dismissively. Their technology is a patchwork of borrowed and improvised solutions. Record everything for our engineering corps to analyze later. They'll likely find it an amusing case study in what not to do. But as they approached Earth's outer defense perimeter, Senra found herself watching the human ships more carefully. There was something about their apparent randomness that seemed almost deliberate, as if chaos itself was a weapon they had somehow learned to wield. She would soon discover just how dangerous that weapon could be. The first sign that something was wrong came during what should have been a routine scanning procedure. The Crystal Dominion's sensor arrays, capable of mapping a planet's core from orbit, were returning contradictory readings from the human vessels. High Admiral, the science officer's scales had shifted to a troubled gray. We're detecting multiple anomalies in the human fleet's energy signatures. The mining laser array we identified earlier, it's not exactly what we thought. Senra moved to the science station, her secondary eyes narrowing at the displays. Explain. The energy patterns suggest it's not just a repurposed mining tool. The apparatus appears to be generating some kind of quantum cascade effect. It's as if they found a way to. The science officer paused, mandibles clicking in disbelief. To weaponize quantum entanglement itself. Before Senra could respond, Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system. I see your sensors are getting a better look at our ships, High Admiral. Would you like a closer demonstration of that particular system? The human's tone was still pleasant, but there was no mistaking the implicit challenge. Senra's scales rippled with irritation. Captain Chen, weapon demonstrations were not part of the agreed diplomatic protocols. Oh, it's not just a weapon, Chen replied. Like most of our technology, it serves multiple functions. Would you like to see what happens when we use it for its original mining purpose? Without waiting for a response, the human vessel with the mining laser oriented itself toward a small asteroid that had strayed into their patrol route. The device powered up, and Senra's entire bridge crew watched in fascination, as reality itself seemed to hiccup around the target. The asteroid didn't explode or melt or shatter. Instead, it simply ceased to maintain cohesion at the quantum level. One moment it was there. The next it had become a perfectly spherical cloud of component atoms. Impressive, isn't it? Chen's voice carried a note of pride. We discovered that quantum entanglement could be used to temporarily suspend the forces holding matter together. Makes mining much more efficient when you can simply tell atoms to stop being friends for a moment. Of course, when applied to military vessels with their own energy fields. She left the implication hanging. Commander Vell leaned close to Senra's audio receptor. "Hi, Admiral. I've completed analyzing the cultural reports. The humans have a long history of repurposing civilian technology for military applications. They call it dual-use technology." Senra's scales shifted through patterns of concern and curiosity. "Show me the other anomalies," she ordered her science team. The displays filled with data that increasingly defied Kilarian understanding of physics. The asymmetrical hull of one human vessel wasn't simply poor design. It was a sophisticated metamaterial that could alter its properties in response to different types of energy weapons. The seemingly random placement of engine nodes created interference patterns that could disrupt targeting systems. "Hi, Admiral," her tactical officer called out. "I'm detecting what appears to be a primitive fission reactor on one of their smaller vessels, but the energy output is impossible. They seem to be using the radioactive decay process to generate some kind of temporal distortion field." Temporal distortion. Senra's scales paled. That's forbidden technology. The risks of timeline contamination are quite manageable with the right containment protocols. Chen interrupted, having apparently maintained an open channel. "We found that radioactive decay provides an excellent random number generator for quantum temporal mechanics. Helps prevent any paradoxes from forming. Would you like a demonstration of that system as well?" Senra felt her confidence in Kilarian technological superiority beginning to waver. Every primitive aspect of the human fleet was revealing itself to be something far more sophisticated and far more dangerous than it appeared. "That vessel near the rear of your formation," Senra said, trying to maintain her composure. "Our initial scan suggested it was barely holding together. Multiple hull breaches, exposed power conduits." "Ah, the Krasnikov." Chen's smile was audible in her voice. "Those aren't hull breaches. They're apertures for our quantum foam manipulation system. The exposed conduits are actually waveguides for controlling microscopic wormholes. Very useful for waste heat management. Also makes for some interesting tactical options." Commander Vell's scales had shifted to full alarm pattern. "Hi, Admiral. I've completed cross-referencing all our readings. Each human vessel appears to incorporate at least 3 technologies that our scientists had declared theoretically impossible. Their entire fleet is a floating violation of what we thought were the fundamental laws of physics." "But the inefficiencies," Senra protested, though her voice lacked its earlier conviction. "The chaos in their designs is precisely what allows these systems to work together," Chen explained. "You see, High Admiral, we discovered something interesting when we started pushing the boundaries of physics. Clean, elegant solutions often don't work when you're trying to break the universe's rules. Sometimes you need a little chaos to slip through the cracks in reality." As if to demonstrate this point, one of the human vessels suddenly performed a maneuver that should have torn it apart. Instead of following the normal laws of momentum, it seemed to skip through several points in space simultaneously, leaving a trail of quantum probability waves in its wake. "That's impossible," Senra whispered. "Impossible is just another word for hasn't been done yet," Chen replied. "We find it's better to focus on what works rather than what should work. Speaking of which, we're approaching the demonstration area. Would you like to see what happens when we combine all these systems together?" Senra looked at her tactical display, suddenly aware that the apparently random movements of the human fleet had positioned her ships exactly where the humans wanted them. Every apparent flaw, every seeming weakness, every violation of proper space combat doctrine had been deliberately crafted to serve a purpose she was only now beginning to understand. "No demonstration will be necessary, Captain," Senra said carefully. "I believe we have significantly underestimated the Earth Federation's technological capabilities. Don't feel bad about it, High Admiral. Everyone does." Chen's voice was sympathetic. "We've found it's often an advantage to be underestimated. makes diplomacy much more interesting when you can surprise people with what you're capable of. As Senra watched the human fleet continue its complex dance through space, she realized that the Kilarian Empire would need to radically reassess its approach to this new species. They had encountered something unprecedented, a civilization that had advanced not by following the established rules of science and engineering, but by finding creative ways to break them. The crisis point came without warning. As the combined fleet approached Proxima Centauri, a surge of energy signatures appeared on the Crystal Dominion's long-range sensors. A Kilarian battle group, operating without authorization, had decided to take matters into their own hands. High Admiral. Commander Vel's scales flickered with alarm. Battle Group Nexus is charging weapons. They're not responding to authentication codes. Senra felt her inner membranes constrict. Battle Group Nexus was commanded by her rival, Sub-Admiral Kexri, a hardliner who had opposed any diplomatic contact with primitive species. Send another authentication demand. Make it clear that any hostile action will be considered an act of treason. Too late, Captain Chen's voice cut through the command channel. They're launching quantum torpedoes. Permission to demonstrate our defensive capabilities, High Admiral. Before Senra could respond, the space between the fleets erupted with weapons fire. Kexri's ships had launched a full barrage, enough firepower to shatter a small moon. The human vessels, seemingly caught off guard, began to move in what appeared to be panic. But Senra knew better now. The first wave of quantum torpedoes approached the human vessel with the exposed hull breaches, the Krasnikov. Instead of attempting to evade, the ship's apparent damage points suddenly flared with exotic energy. The torpedoes vanished into the microscopic wormholes, only to reappear behind Kexri's fleet, forcing his ships to scatter to avoid their own weapons. Fascinating application of quantum foam manipulation, Senra's science officer commented, professional curiosity temporarily overriding military protocol. They're using localized space-time curvature to redirect incoming fire. The battle evolved with dizzying speed. The human ships moved in patterns that defied conventional tactical analysis, each vessel employing its unique capabilities in concert with the others. The ship with the quantum entanglement mining laser fired precise bursts that didn't damage Kexri's vessels, but instead temporarily transformed sections of their crystalline hulls into quantum-entangled states. Target profile is too erratic, one of Kexri's tactical officers reported over the open channel. Their formation makes no sense. We can't establish a targeting solution. Because it's not a formation, Chen explained, her voice carrying an edge of steel beneath its professional calm. Each ship is acting independently while maintaining quantum communications through the entangled hull sections we just created. We don't need to coordinate our movements because we're operating as a quantum superposition of tactical possibilities. The vessel that Senra had dismissed for its primitive fission reactor suddenly activated its temporal distortion field. Space itself seemed to stutter around Kexri's fleet as multiple time streams temporarily desynchronized. Some ships fired at targets that had already moved, while others found themselves responding to attacks that hadn't happened yet. This is impossible. Kexri's voice boomed across the command channel. No species can manipulate temporal mechanics with such precision. The power requirements alone are quite manageable when you use chaos theory to optimize your power distribution, Chen interrupted. The random decay of fission materials provides an excellent framework for temporal calculations. We find that a little quantum uncertainty goes a long way. Senra watched in astonishment as the human fleet systematically dismantled Kexri's tactical advantages. The asymmetrical metamaterial hulls absorbed or redirected energy weapons. The supposedly inefficient engine configurations created interference patterns that played havoc with Kilarian targeting systems. Every apparent weakness revealed itself as a carefully crafted strength. High Admiral, Commander Vel reported, Battle Group Nexus has lost shield coherency on 3 vessels. Their quantum field generators are being disrupted by some kind of synchronized quantum entanglement cascade. The mining laser, Senra realized. They weren't just marking targets, They were creating an interconnected network of quantum entangled points across multiple ships. They turned Kexri's entire battle group into a single quantum system that they could manipulate at will. An interesting hypothesis, Chen agreed. Though I should point out that we're being quite gentle. These are technically just warning shots. Would you like to see what happens when we actually intend to cause damage? As if to emphasize her point, the Krasnikov's wormhole apertures began to glow with an impossible light. The ship's quantum foam manipulation system wasn't just redirecting energy now. It was actively harvesting it from multiple points in space-time simultaneously. Stand down, Kexri, Senra ordered. You've made your point, and in doing so, you've nearly started a war we cannot win. Cannot win. Kexri's voice crackled with rage. We are the Kilarian Empire. Our technology is the pinnacle of ordered space combat doctrine, refined over 10,000 years. And in less than an hour, Senra replied, these humans have demonstrated at least 15 different ways to turn that doctrine against us. Stand down. For a moment, it seemed Kexri would refuse. Then, gradually, the energy signatures from his vessels began to power down. The human ships maintained their positions, their impossible technologies humming with restrained potential. A wise decision, Chen said. Though I hope you understand that this incident will need to be addressed in our diplomatic discussions, we take unauthorized acts of aggression quite seriously. Senra's scales shifted through patterns of diplomatic concern and professional admiration. Of course, Captain. Though I must ask, how did your species develop such unusual applications of advanced physics? Necessity and curiosity, Chen replied. When you're a young species trying to survive in a galaxy full of ancient empires, you learn to think creatively. We couldn't match the established technological doctrines of older civilizations, so we had to find our own path. Sometimes the best way forward is to question why things are done the way they are. As Kexri's battle group limped away from the encounter, Senra realized that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The Kilarian Empire would need to radically reassess not just its diplomatic stance toward Earth, but its entire understanding of technological progress. The humans hadn't just defeated a superior force, they had done so while revealing only a fraction of their true capabilities, and they had done it not through brute force or overwhelming numbers, but through the creative application of principles that the Kilarians had dismissed as impossible. In the aftermath of the Battle of Proxima, the Kilarian Empire found itself facing an unprecedented situation. For the first time in 10,000 years, the High Council had convened an emergency session to discuss a complete tactical paradigm shift. High Admiral Senra stood before them, her scales shifting between patterns of uncertainty and revelation as she delivered her report. The humans don't just use different technology, she explained, gesturing to the holographic battle recordings. They fundamentally approach space combat from a perspective we had never considered possible. Each of their ships is a unique tactical problem that requires a unique solution. The council chamber erupted with objections. This defies all established doctrine. One elder declared, his scales flushing with indignation. Combat effectiveness requires uniformity, standardization. Does it? Senra challenged, activating a new hologram. Watch this engagement sequence again. When Kexri's battle group attempted to establish a standard combat pattern, the humans didn't just counter it. They turned our own tactical predictability against us. The recording showed how the human fleet had split into what appeared to be random groups, each ship operating independently yet somehow maintaining perfect coordination through their quantum-entangled communications network. Traditional Kilarian battle doctrine had no answer for an enemy that refused to follow conventional rules of engagement. Commander Vell stepped forward, presenting additional data. We've analyzed their ship designs more thoroughly. What we initially dismissed as engineering failures are actually deliberate design choices. They're not trying to achieve perfection. They're intentionally introducing controlled chaos into their systems. The recording shifted to show the Krasnikov's quantum foam manipulation in action. The vessel's seemingly exposed systems created unpredictable localized space-time distortions that made traditional targeting impossible. Meanwhile, the ship with the temporal distortion field had demonstrated that even causality itself could be turned into a weapon. Most concerning, Vell continued, is that we believe we've only seen a fraction of their capabilities. The human fleet showed remarkable restraint during the engagement. They disabled Kexri's ships without destroying a single vessel. Restraint, another council member scoffed. Or limitation. Consider this, Senra interjected. Their quantum entanglement mining laser could have easily disrupted the atomic bonds of our ship's hulls. The temporal distortion field could have trapped our vessels in causality loops. The wormhole apertures could have redirected our own weapons into our power cores. They chose not to. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just defeated a Calirian battle group. They had done so while deliberately holding back their full capabilities. A new hologram activated, showing Captain Chen's ship, the asymmetrical vessel that had initially drawn such derision. Their flagship's design is particularly telling, Senra explained. Its hull geometry doesn't just deflect our sensors, it actively adapts to different types of attacks. The more we engage it, the more it learns about our weapons and tactics. Are you suggesting, the council leader's scales shifted to a deep shade of concern, that their ships are capable of evolution during combat? That's exactly what I'm suggesting, Senra confirmed. The humans have developed technology that doesn't just solve problems, it learns from them. Every engagement makes their systems more effective, more unpredictable. The tactical display shifted to show a broader strategic analysis. But the true genius of their approach isn't in any single technology. It's in how they combine different systems in ways we had considered impossible. They turned technological incompatibility into an advantage. Commander Vell highlighted several examples. Their quantum communications network shouldn't be able to function alongside temporal distortion fields. Their wormhole apertures should collapse when exposed to quantum entanglement effects. But they found ways to make these contradictions work together, creating tactical possibilities we never imagined. And now, Senra concluded, we must face a difficult truth. The Calirian Empire's greatest strength, our adherence to proven doctrine and standardized technology, has become our greatest vulnerability. The humans have demonstrated that there are infinite ways to wage war in space, and we have prepared for only one. The council chamber erupted in debate, but Senra wasn't finished. She activated one final recording, a private communication from Captain Chen that had arrived just before the council session. High Admiral, Chen's hologram addressed the room. I understand your council is meeting to discuss our recent encounter. I want to be clear about something. What you saw wasn't just a demonstration of our military capabilities. It was an invitation to think differently about how we approach the challenges of space. The human captain's image smiled. Your empire has achieved incredible things through standardization and order. We respect that. But the universe is chaos, and sometimes the best way to navigate chaos is to embrace it. We're not your enemies unless you choose to make us so. We'd rather be partners in exploring the infinite possibilities that arise when different approaches to science and combat work together. As the hologram faded, Senra faced the council. We have two choices. We can cling to our doctrine and face an enemy that will always be one step ahead of us, or we can learn from the humans and expand our understanding of what's possible. A junior council member, scales shifting with curiosity, spoke up. What if their approach spreads? What if other species begin adopting these irregular methods? Then we'd better start adapting now, Senra replied. Because the humans have proven something we've forgotten in our 10,000 years of empire. The most dangerous weapon in the universe isn't perfect technology or flawless doctrine. It's the ability to think beyond what everyone else believes is possible. 6 months after the Battle of Proxima, the Crystal Dominion docked at Earth's primary orbital shipyard. High Admiral Senra stood before the observation window, her scales shifting through patterns of wonder as she watched humans and Kilarians working side by side on a new class of vessel. Remarkable, isn't it? Captain Chen appeared beside her, watching the construction crews. Your crystalline engineering combined with our quantum foam manipulation, the first true hybrid of our technologies. The ship taking shape before them defied traditional classification. Its hull incorporated Kilarian crystal matrices, but they were arranged in seemingly random patterns that created quantum resonance effects. Wormhole apertures were integrated directly into the crystalline structure, allowing for unprecedented control over space-time distortions. When I first saw your fleet, Senra admitted, I thought we were witnessing the death of proper space engineering. Instead, we were seeing its rebirth. That's the thing about progress. Chen smiled. It rarely comes from following the established path. Sometimes you have to step off the road entirely and forge your own way through the wilderness. They moved to a technical station where Commander Vell was working with a human engineer. The display showed a new form of quantum entanglement drive that combined Kilarian precision with human chaos theory. It shouldn't have worked. The equation suggested it was impossible. Yet the prototype was achieving efficiency levels that neither species had managed alone. The Council is still struggling to adapt, Senra said, watching the impossible drive calculations scroll past. 10,000 years of doing things one way. It's not easy to change. No one said it would be easy, Chen agreed. But look at what we've achieved in just 6 months. Your Empire's deep understanding of physical laws combined with our willingness to bend those laws has opened up possibilities neither of us imagined. The station's displays shifted to show other joint projects. Kilarian battle doctrine was being revolutionized by human insights into asymmetric warfare. Human ships were being enhanced with refined crystalline technology that made their impossible systems even more effective. But most importantly, both species were learning from each other's fundamentally different approaches to problem solving. We had forgotten something important, Senra reflected, her scales rippling with newfound wisdom. In our quest for perfect standardization, we forgot that the universe itself is wild and unpredictable. You humans, you never forgot that. You embraced it. We had to, Chen explained. Earth's history is filled with examples of smaller, less advanced forces defeating superior ones by thinking differently. When we reached the stars, we applied those same lessons to space combat. Every disadvantage became a potential advantage. Every flaw became a possible strength. They moved to another window, this one overlooking Earth itself. The planet was a swirling mix of natural beauty and technological achievement, order and chaos existing in perfect balance. That's our real secret, Chen continued. We never tried to impose our will on the universe. We learned to work with it, to harness its inherent chaos rather than trying to control it. Every one of our ships is unique, because every problem can be solved in multiple ways. And now, Senra asked, watching a group of Kilarian scientists excitedly discussing temporal mechanics with their human counterparts. Now we move forward together, Chen replied. Your Empire's experience and our innovation, your precision and our creativity. Think of it as technological evolution, the strongest traits of both species combining to create something greater than either of us could achieve alone. A notification chimed, drawing their attention to a nearby screen. The first test results from the hybrid drive system were coming in. The numbers were staggering, efficiency ratings that shattered both human and Kilarian previous records. You know what the best part is? Chen grinned. This is just the beginning. Every breakthrough leads to new questions, new possibilities. The universe is infinite, and now we have infinite ways to explore it. Senra's scales shifted to a pattern of deep satisfaction. When I first encountered your fleet, I thought I was seeing the primitive efforts of an underdeveloped species. Instead, I was witnessing the future of space technology. You showed us that true strength doesn't come from perfecting a single approach. It comes from being able to adapt, to think differently, to see possibilities where others see only problems. And you, Chen added, showed us that sometimes chaos needs a little order to reach its full potential. Your empire's knowledge has helped us refine our impossible technologies in ways we never could have managed alone. Above them, the hybrid vessel's quantum crystal matrix began to pulse with energy as its systems came online for the first time. It was neither human nor Killarian in design, but something entirely new. A physical representation of what could be achieved when different perspectives came together. "They're still laughing, you know," Senra said softly. "Other species, when they see our joint fleet, they think we've lost our way, abandoned our principles." "Let them laugh," Chen replied, watching the hybrid ship's impossible drive spring to life. "The universe has a way of teaching humility to those who think they know everything. We learned that lesson long ago, and now your people have learned it too. That's why we'll succeed where others fail, because we understand that the greatest achievements don't come from following the rules." She paused, smiling as the hybrid vessel's quantum fields stabilized in patterns that defied conventional physics. "They come from having the courage to break them." The human and Killarian crews cheered together as the ship's systems synchronized perfectly. In that moment, Senra understood that her empire hadn't just gained an ally. They had discovered a whole new way of looking at the universe. The humans hadn't just changed their technology. They had changed their perspective on what was possible. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all.